Jin had never expected to find himself representing humanity in space. As the Federation transport ship's engines hummed softly, he stared out the viewport at the massive orbital academy floating against a backdrop of unfamiliar stars. The structure resembled a giant metallic snowflake with dozens of habitation rings spinning gently around a central hub. "I still can't believe they picked us," Sue whispered beside him, her eyes wide with wonder. The urban survival specialist had been just as shocked as Jin when the invitation arrived. Day, always the calmest of the three, simply nodded. "Must have been our test scores," he said, adjusting the small pack containing his personal items. "Though, I didn't think Earth's survival program was even on their radar." The truth was far more mundane, though they wouldn't discover it for weeks. A simple clerical error had confused human with Humarian, a peaceful species from a climate-controlled world who had never experienced anything more dangerous than a light drizzle. By the time the Federation administrators realized their mistake, interstellar protocol made it impossible to rescind the invitation without causing a diplomatic incident. The ship docked with a gentle shudder. A tall, slender alien with iridescent skin waited for them at the airlock. Jin tried not to stare at the being's forearms or the way light seemed to pass through its semi-transparent body. "Greetings, humans. I am Administrator Rill," the alien said, voice melodious through the universal translator. "Welcome to the Galactic Federation's Elite Survival Academy. Your presence is unexpected." The slight hesitation wasn't lost on Jin. Something felt off about the welcome, but he couldn't place it. "We're honored to be here," Jin replied with a small bow. Earth's space program had drilled diplomatic protocols into them for weeks. First impressions mattered. Administrator Rill led them through corridors bustling with aliens of all descriptions. Some walked on tentacles, others floated on cushions of air. A few scuttled along walls and ceilings. The diversity was stunning. "The Academy accepts only the top survival specialists from each Federation world," Rill explained, leading them into a large orientation chamber. "Your training program lasts one standard cycle. Be warned, our washout rate is 98%. Those who cannot adapt are sent home." Jin exchanged glances with his teammates. Earth's selection process had been brutal. Thousands of applicants narrowed down to just 3. They were Earth's best, but would that be enough? The chamber filled with other students. Jin counted representatives from at least 30 different species. Many kept their distance from the humans, whispering behind appendages or tentacles. Others stared openly, some with what Jin interpreted as fear. A small, furry being with enormous eyes approached them. "You are from Earth?" it asked, voice high and melodic. "Yes, I'm Jin. These are my colleagues Day and Sue." The alien's fur rippled in what might have been alarm. "But Earth is... How do you survive there?" Before Jin could answer, a thunderous sound filled the chamber. A massive being with rock-like skin stomped to the center of the room. The floor vibrated with each step. "I am Chief Instructor Cole," the being announced, voice like grinding stones. "Today begins your journey to become elite survival specialists. Only the most adaptable will succeed." Cole's crystalline eyes settled on the humans longer than necessary. "You will be divided into training groups based on physiological compatibility. Assignments appear on your personal devices." Jin checked his Federation-issued tablet. The 3 humans had been split up. A map showed his first training location, Simulation Chamber 12. "They separated us," Sue said, frowning. "That feels deliberate." Day shrugged. "Maybe they want to see how we perform individually. Or maybe they don't want us comparing notes," Jin thought, but didn't say. As Jin followed directions to his assigned chamber, he noticed the sidelong glances from both students and staff. One instructor, a floating cloud of gas contained in a transparent suit, actually changed direction to avoid passing him in a corridor. Simulation Chamber 12 turned out to be a stark white room with 15 other students. The instructor, a tall, insectoid being called Tech, clicked mandibles disapprovingly when Jin entered. "Our first exercise tests adaptation to temperature variation," Tech announced. "We will experience a 5-degree shift. Prepare yourselves." Jin waited for more details, but the other students were already donning protective gear from wall compartments. 5 degrees seemed trivial, unless... "Excuse me?" Jin asked a nearby student, a blue-skinned humanoid. "Is that 5 degrees Celsius?" The alien looked confused. Of course. No species could survive more extreme shifts. Jin hid his surprise. On Earth, temperature could swing 20 degrees in a single day. 5 degrees was nothing. The simulation began. The room cooled gradually. The other students huddled in thermal blankets, some activating personal heating devices. Jin stood comfortably, hands in pockets, watching with fascination as his classmates treated this minor temperature drop like a survival emergency. Instructor Tech observed from a corner, compound, eyes fixed on Jin. The human's casual stance clearly wasn't the reaction he expected. "Human," Tech called out sharply, "are your environmental sensors functioning?" "Yes, instructor. I'm monitoring the temperature drop." "Then why aren't you utilizing protective measures?" Jin chose his words carefully. "My species tolerates this temperature range without assistance." A murmur ran through the room. Several students edged away from him. "Impossible," someone whispered. "He must be dying internally." Jin realized then what was happening. These beings came from worlds with stable environments. Minimal adaptation needed. Earth, with its hurricanes, blizzards, deserts, and floods, had produced a species that considered this challenge laughably easy. As the simulation ended, Jin caught Tech sending a message on his device. The instructor's mandibles clicked rapidly, agitated. That evening, Jin reunited with Day and Sue at their assigned quarters. Their experiences had been similar. "My instructor nearly had a panic attack when I mentioned Earth's oxygen levels fluctuate in different regions," Sue said. Day laughed. "Mine couldn't believe I'd actually been in unfiltered wilderness without dying." "Something's not right," Jin said quietly. "Did you notice how they're watching us? Like they're waiting for us to fail? Or waiting to see what we'll do next," Sue added. "I overheard 2 administrators talking. They called us Deathworlders." None of them knew what that meant, but Jin suspected they'd find out soon enough. Whatever game the Academy was playing, the humans had unknowingly changed the rules simply by showing up. As lights dimmed for the sleep cycle, Jin stared at the unfamiliar stars outside their viewport. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for the first time, he wondered if the real test wasn't about survival at all, but about what the Federation really wanted from Earth. The second week at the Academy brought new challenges that left Jin both amused and confused. The morning began with Instructor Rock, a tall being with shimmering scales explaining their task for the day. "Today we face atmospheric variation," Rock announced to the class. "You will experience a 2% shift in oxygen levels. Medical staff are standing by for emergencies." Jin glanced around as his classmates began checking their breathing apparatus. 2%? On Earth, oxygen levels varied by far more than that between sea level and mountains. People hiked up peaks with much larger oxygen drops without special equipment. As the simulation started, Jin breathed normally while his classmates activated their respiratory aids. A student with gill-like structures on their neck noticed Jin's lack of equipment. "Where is your breather?" they asked, voice strained through their own device. "Don't need one," Jin replied with a shrug. "This is pretty normal for humans." The student's eyes widened. "But how do your cells maintain function?" Before Jin could answer, Instructor Rock rushed over. "Human, your life support. Equipment malfunction?" "No malfunction. Humans adapt to oxygen variations naturally." Rock's scales flashed with patterns Jin interpreted as disbelief. The instructor pulled out a monitoring device, scanning Jin's vital signs. The readings caused Rock to step back. "Impossible. Your blood oxygen remains stable without assistance." Several students were now watching the exchange, their attention diverted from their own struggles. Jin felt suddenly like a zoo exhibit. "Earth's atmosphere varies quite a bit," Jin tried to explain. "We climb mountains, dive underwater." "Underwater?" interrupted a gelatinous student nearby. "Without protective bubbles?" Jin nodded. "Some humans can hold their breath for several minutes." The classroom erupted in whispers. Rock quieted them with a sharp sound from his throat pouch. "Return to your exercises," he commanded before turning back to Jin. "You will report to special assessment after this session." Later that day, Jin found Day and Sue in their shared quarters, both looking as confused as he felt. "They put me through 3 extra simulations," Day said, dropping onto his sleep platform. "Each time they increased the difficulty, expecting me to fail." Sue nodded. "Same here. When I mentioned that humans regularly survive days without water, my instructor nearly fainted." "They called me a biological anomaly," Jin said. "I think they're changing our training program." The next morning confirmed his suspicions. All 3 humans were reassigned to a new training group led by instructor Vextal, a crystalline being whose body refracted light like a prism. The other students in this group appeared stronger, more resilient than their previous classmates. "Welcome to Advanced Scenarios," Vextal announced. Her voice resonated like glass chimes. "You face challenges beyond standard parameters." The simulation chamber transformed into a rocky landscape. Wind howled through the holographic environment, carrying particles of dust and grit. "You must travel 3 units to the shelter," Vextal explained. "The atmospheric contaminants will irritate respiratory systems. The temperature will fluctuate by 15 degrees. Begin." 15 degrees? Jin exchanged glances with Day and Sue. This was still nothing compared to Earth's deserts. The alien students moved cautiously, using protective gear and monitoring equipment. The humans simply covered their faces with cloth and moved forward, confidently. "They're treating this like a death march," Sue whispered as they traversed the rocky terrain. "This is basically like hiking in Arizona." Halfway through, one student collapsed. Their skin, normally vibrant purple, had dulled to a sickly gray. Jin reached them first. "I can't continue," the alien gasped. "The temperature? Too extreme." Jin checked the environmental readings. The temperature had dropped just 10 degrees so far. On Earth, such a change might require adding a light jacket. "I'll help you," Jin offered, kneeling beside the struggling student. "Impossible," the alien replied. "You must save yourself." Jin almost laughed but caught himself. "I'm fine. What's your name?" "Tay," the alien replied weakly. "All right, Tay. Put your arm around me. We'll get there together." From the control room, Vextal watched with what Jin interpreted as astonishment as he helped Tay navigate the course. When they reached the shelter, the instructor's crystalline form flickered with internal light. "Human," Vextal addressed Jin directly. "Your species assists others at personal risk?" "Of course," Jin replied, confused by the question. "We wouldn't leave someone behind." That evening, word had spread. The humans found themselves surrounded by curious students in the dining hall. "Is it true you can survive radiation exposure?" asked one student with metallic skin. "Well, not high levels, but—" "And you repair bone fractures naturally?" interrupted another. "Yes, our bodies heal." "And you intentionally consume capsaicin compounds? For pleasure?" The questions came faster than the humans could answer. Jin noticed academy administrators watching from a distance, their expressions unreadable. Later, alone in their quarters, the 3 humans compared notes. "They're testing us differently now," Day said. "My instructor accidentally mentioned Category 5, simulations. I looked it up. Those are designed for the most hostile environments in the Federation." "I overheard something interesting," Sue added, lowering her voice. "There's a student named Nim who's being deliberately failed. Something about political tensions with his homeworld." Jin frowned. "How do you know?" "I was in the ventilation system," Sue explained. At their surprised looks, she added, "What?" "I was curious how the air filtration worked. Anyway, I heard administrators talking. They're using technical scores to wash out certain students for political reasons." "That's wrong," Jin said firmly. "We should help them." "How?" Day asked. "We're barely figuring this place out ourselves." Jin thought for a moment. "We passed the basic survival skills easily. We could teach them after hours." The next day, Jin approached Nim, a quiet student with feathered appendages who struggled with temperature variations. "I noticed you had trouble with the cold simulation. Jin said carefully. We have some techniques that might help. Nim's feathers rippled with suspicion. Why would you assist me? Because that's what humans do, Jin replied simply. We help each other survive. That night, in an unused simulation room Sue had discovered, they met with Nim and 4 other struggling students. Jin demonstrated how to conserve body heat, while Day taught techniques for managing limited resources. Your species evolved these strategies? Asked an amazed student named Lun. Over thousands of years, Day explained. Earth forces adaptation. Your world sounds terrifying, Nim said quietly. Jin smiled. It can be, but it's also beautiful because of that struggle. The most spectacular views often come after the hardest climbs. Their secret training sessions continued for weeks. During the day, the humans faced increasingly difficult challenges designed to make them fail. At night, they taught other students how to survive. Administrator Rock discovered their unauthorized gatherings eventually. Jin expected punishment, but instead, the administrator observed silently from the doorway as Sue taught a group how to find safe water sources. You teach others even when competing against them, Rock said to Jin afterward. Why? Jin thought about Earth, about how humans had survived by working together through ice ages and natural disasters. Because survival isn't just about individual strength, he answered. It's about community. No one survives alone forever. Rock's scales shimmered with a pattern Jin hadn't seen before. Perhaps, the administrator said thoughtfully, we have been teaching survival incorrectly all along. As Jin watched Rock leave, he realized something important was changing at the academy. The humans hadn't just been adapting to the academy's challenges. The academy was beginning to adapt to them. The volcanic simulation was meant to be the most challenging exercise yet. Jin stood at the entrance to Simulation Chamber Alpha, the academy's largest and most advanced training environment. Heat radiated from the doorway in waves that made the air shimmer. Today you face an active geological event, announced instructor Vextal, her crystalline body glittering under the harsh lights. You must retrieve data cores from 3 locations while managing extreme heat and toxic atmospheric conditions. Jin surveyed his fellow students. Day and Sue had been assigned to his group for this exercise, along with several of the academy's top performers. Their expressions ranged from determined to terrified. Your protective gear has limitations, Vextal continued. Exposure should not exceed 15 minutes. Medical teams are standing by. The students donned their heat-resistant suits and breathing apparatus. Jin checked Sue's seals, then his own. The suits were impressive, lightweight yet supposedly able to withstand temperatures that would cook unprotected flesh. Stay within visual range of your assigned partner, Vextal instructed. Begin. They entered the chamber in pairs. Jin gasped despite himself. The simulation was incredible, a hellscape of bubbling lava flows, jagged obsidian formations, and sulfurous gas vents that hissed and spewed. The heat was intense even through his protective gear. This is amazing, Jin whispered to Tay, who had become his regular training partner since the earlier exercise. It's like standing inside an actual volcano. Tay's normally blue skin had paled to a sickly gray inside his transparent helmet. This is beyond extreme, he replied, voice shaking. No habitable world has environments like this. Jin almost mentioned Earth's volcanoes but thought better of it. No need to frighten his friend further. They made their way toward the first data core, carefully navigating across solidified lava fields. Jin noticed how the alien students moved with excessive caution, treating each step like it might be their last. The humans, while careful, moved with significantly more confidence. First core secured, called Day over the communication system. He and his partner had reached their objective ahead of schedule. Jin and Tay reached their target moments later. The data core pulsed with artificial light, embedded in a rock formation surrounded by bubbling pools of simulated magma. Jin reached out and retrieved it. Second core secured, he reported. Sue's voice came next. Almost at the third core. Wait, something's wrong with the environmental controls. Jin felt it immediately, a surge in temperature far beyond the simulation parameters. His suit's warning system began to chime. All students evacuate immediately, Vextal's voice commanded. Simulation malfunction detected. A violent rumble shook the chamber. Jin watched in horror as a section of the ceiling collapsed, blocking the exit path with synthetic rubble. At the same time, his atmospheric sensor flashed red. Toxic gas leak, he reported. Real, not simulated. System override failing, came Vextal's voice, now tinged with genuine alarm. Emergency protocols activated, but doors are non-responsive. Jin looked around. The other students were frozen in panic. Even the most experienced among them seemed paralyzed by the sudden shift from controlled exercise to genuine danger. Listen up, Sue's voice cut through the chaos. This is now a real emergency. We need to organize. Day, can you find an alternative? Exit? On it, Day replied. There's a maintenance tunnel 3 sections east. It should bypass the collapsed area. Jin was already moving. Everyone pair up. If your suit shows damage, report it now. The students began to move, following the human's lead with a mixture of confusion and desperate hope. My respirator is failing, gasped a student named Vin, a delicate being with translucent skin through which Jin could see quickening pulses of light. Here, Jin said, pulling an emergency patch from his kit. This will seal it temporarily. They progressed toward the maintenance tunnel, helping injured students along the way. Jin's training from Earth kicked in automatically. Assess, prioritize, act. The toxic gas levels continued to rise according to his sensors. The door is sealed, Day reported when they reached the tunnel entrance. Manual override required. Stand back, Sue said. She pulled a small tool from her emergency kit and began working on the control panel. Basic circuitry. Just need to bypass the safety lockout. The door slid open, revealing a narrow passage. Get everyone through, Jin ordered. I'll make sure no one's left behind. As the students filed through the passage, Jin did a final sweep of the chamber. The heat was becoming unbearable, his suit approaching its limits. The toxic gas had reached levels his sensors could no longer accurately measure. He found an instructor trapped under fallen debris, a junior staff member named Pell, whose lower body was pinned by a synthetic boulder. Leave me, Pell gasped. Your suit won't last. Jin ignored the plea, bracing himself against the boulder and pushing with everything he had. His muscles screamed in protest, but the rock shifted just enough. Crawl out, Jin ordered. Once Pell was free, Jin helped the injured instructor toward the exit. His suit warnings had progressed from chimes to urgent alarms. The temperature gauge showed critical levels. They reached the maintenance tunnel just as Jin's suit began to fail. He shoved Pell through before stumbling in himself. Day sealed the door behind them. In the relative safety of the tunnel, Jin collapsed against the wall. His vision blurred as his suit's cooling system struggled to compensate for the damage. Jin! Sue was beside him, removing his damaged helmet. Stay with me. I'm okay, he managed, though his skin felt scorched and his lungs burned. Everyone else? All accounted for, Day confirmed. Medical team is waiting at the other end. When they finally emerged from the tunnel, the Academy's emergency response team rushed forward. Doctors of various species began treating the injured students. A shocked silence fell when Jin walked out under his own power, supporting the injured instructor. Impossible, whispered a medical officer scanning Jin's body. Your suit failed 3 minutes ago. The exposure levels you endured. Is everyone safe? Jin asked, ignoring the comment. Yes, thanks to you three, replied Administrator Rock, approaching with Vextal. The system malfunction was catastrophic. Without your intervention, we would have lost students. Jin noticed the way they were staring at him and the other humans, not with the previous curiosity or skepticism, but with something that looked like awe. Later in the medical bay, the 3 humans sat together while doctors fussed over them. Despite their protests, the medical staff seemed determined to find something wrong with their bodies after the exposure. They can't believe we're fine, Sue said quietly. Day nodded. I overheard the doctors. They said the gas levels should have caused immediate respiratory failure in any known species. Is that why everyone's looking at us differently? Jin asked, noting the stares from staff and students alike. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of the Academy's senior leadership, a group of administrators they'd never seen before. The tallest among them, a being with 6 limbs and gleaming silver skin, stepped forward. "I am Grand Administrator Bell," they announced. "We must address what happened today." Jin tensed, expecting reprimand or expulsion. Instead, the administrator continued. "Your actions saved many lives. But more significantly, you have exposed a truth we can no longer ignore." The administrator produced a holographic display showing Earth, rotating slowly in space. A classification appeared beside it. Category 5 Deathworld. "Your homeworld is classified as the most extreme habitable planet in known space," Bell explained. "We thought the classification was exaggerated. We were wrong." Jin exchanged stunned glances with Day and Sue. All this time, they'd been normal, humans doing what came naturally. They had never realized that what was ordinary for them was extraordinary for everyone else. "What happens now?" Jin asked. "Now," replied Administrator Bell, "we rewrite our understanding of survival, and perhaps of humanity itself." Jin's head still hurt from the volcanic incident when he received the message. "Special training opportunity," the text read on his Academy tablet. "Elite students only. Report to Hangar Bay 12 at 600 hours. He showed it to Day and Sue over breakfast in the dining hall. The usual buzz of conversation surrounded them, but Jin noticed how other students now gave the humans respectful space rather than fearful distance. "Seems odd," Sue said, examining the message. "No instructor signature." Day shrugged. "Maybe it's a reward for the rescue operation." "Or a test," Jin said. "Remember how they've been pushing our limits since day 1? They reported to Hangar Bay 12 the next morning." A small shuttle waited, engine humming. Beside it stood Commander Lox, a military officer they'd never seen before. Unlike the academic staff, Lox wore an armored uniform with insignia Jin didn't recognize. "Ah, the humans," Lox said, mandibles clicking in what might have been a smile. "Excellent, board quickly. We have a specialized training scenario prepared." "What kind of scenario?" Jin asked. "One that will truly test your remarkable abilities," Lox replied. "The Academy administrators were most impressed by your performance during the crisis." Something felt wrong, but Jin couldn't pinpoint why. They boarded the shuttle, which launched immediately. Through the viewport, Jin watched the Academy station shrink to a silver speck against the blackness of space. "Where exactly are we going?" Sue asked as unfamiliar stars streaked past. "Satellite TRZ-42, Lox answered. "An uninhabited moon with unusual properties. Perfect for advanced survival training." 2 hours later, they landed on a desolate, rocky landscape. No plants, no visible water, just endless gray stone under a starlit sky. A small habitation dome waited nearby. "Your mission is simple," Lox explained as they exited the shuttle. "Survive. For 72 hours using only the supplies in the dome. The environment is challenging but within human tolerance, based on our new understanding of your capabilities." "What about communications?" Day asked. "Limited by the moon's magnetic field," Lox replied smoothly. "Emergency beacon only." The shuttle departed minutes later, leaving the humans alone on the barren moon. Jin felt uneasy as they entered the dome. Inside, they found basic supplies, water purifiers, ration packs, and minimal survival gear. "This doesn't feel right," Jin said once they were inside. "Why separate us from the Academy now?" Sue was already examining the dome systems. "Power supply is minimal. Air recyclers are basic models." Day picked up what looked like a water testing kit and frowned. "This equipment is outdated. And look at these readings. They claim the outside atmosphere is partially breathable but toxic long-term." Jin's uneasiness grew. He began a systematic check of the dome's interior. In a corner ceiling panel, he discovered something unusual. A tiny device no bigger than his thumbnail, with a lens pointed toward the center of the room. "Surveillance," he whispered, showing the others without looking directly at it. We're being watched. Sue's eyes widened slightly, but her expression remained neutral. She wrote on her tablet. More cameras? Audio? They spent the next hour in careful examination, pretending to inventory supplies while actually searching every corner. They found 7 cameras and 3 audio pickup devices hidden throughout the dome. Outside, away from the surveillance, Jin spoke barely above a whisper. This isn't training. It's an observation lab. But why? Day asked, kneeling to examine the moon's surface. What do they want from us? Ever since the volcanic incident, everyone's been treating us differently, Sue said. Did you notice the military insignia on Lox's uniform? Not Federation standard. Jin remembered something. During recovery, I overheard 2 administrators talking about military applications for Deathworlders. I thought they meant new training programs. Or they meant us, Day said grimly. Humans as soldiers for environments too dangerous for other species. Back at the academy, Tay noticed the humans' absence immediately. Their training group had been rescheduled without explanation, the humans simply gone. Where are your human friends? Instructor Vexital asked when Tay inquired, after class. I don't know, Tay replied. They didn't mention leaving. Vexital's crystalline form flickered with what might have been concern. Strange. No transfer orders crossed my desk. Tay found his fellow student Han in the library. The normally quiet, Han had been working closely with Sue on environmental systems. The humans are missing, Tay said without preamble. Something's wrong. Han's ears twitched nervously. Sue gave me something yesterday, said to open it if they disappeared. He produced a small data chip. I wasn't sure what to make of it. They found a private terminal and inserted the chip. A message appeared. If you're seeing this, we've been separated from the academy. Check shuttle logs for unauthorized departures. Look for Commander Lox. Trust Administrator Rock. Who's Commander Lox? Tay asked. Han was already accessing the academy's transport database. No authorized departures with the humans listed. But there's a gap in the log. Shuttle 7 left without filing a passenger manifest. We need to speak with Administrator Rock, Tay decided, but carefully. Meanwhile, on the moon, the humans had developed a plan. During their examination of the dome, Jin had discovered the surveillance system's power connection. Each night, they would create a diversion that allowed Sue to temporarily disable the cameras while Day worked on their secret project, a communication device built from parts scavenged from their equipment. They're watching how we adapt, Jin said as they pretended to prepare a meal, documenting our survival techniques. Then let's give them something to document, Sue replied with a slight smile. They put on a show, demonstrating increasingly impressive survival skills during the Dovikoyant, finding water where none seemed to exist, improvising tools from minimal materials, even venturing outside the dome for short periods protected only by makeshift gear they constructed from dome materials. At night, while cameras were briefly disabled, they worked on their true goal, escape. On the 3rd day, a dust storm hit the moon's surface. Perfect cover. The humans activated their makeshift transmitter, boosting its signal through the dome's power system. This is Earth Team calling Academy Station. Emergency broadcast on all frequencies. Back at the Academy, Administrator Rock was meeting secretly with Tai and Han when the message came through. We've been stranded on satellite TRZ-42. Jin's voice crackled. This is not an authorized training exercise. Commander Lox is conducting unsanctioned human testing. Rock's scales flashed with alarm. Patterns. TRZ-42 is a military testing ground, not a training facility. It's strictly off-limits to students. The humans suspected something, Han explained, showing Rock the data chip. They left us instructions. Rock moved quickly, accessing secure communications. I need an emergency extraction team to TRZ-42 immediately. Priority override Alpha. Sir? A technician interrupted. We have unauthorized shuttle activity. Shuttle 7 has launched without clearance. Track it, Rock ordered. On the moon, the humans heard the approaching shuttle. They're coming back, Day said. Either to retrieve us or... Or silence us, Sue finished. They know we've figured it out. Jin made a quick decision. We're not waiting to find out. Get the emergency packs. They had prepared for this possibility, constructing survival gear from dome materials and planning an escape route. As the shuttle landed, they slipped out the dome's emergency exit, using the dust storm as cover. If it's locks, he'll check the dome first, Jin said. We circle around to the shuttle. They moved carefully across the rocky terrain, the storm stinging their exposed skin. The shuttle's ramp was down, engines still hot. Jin peered inside, then signaled the others. Empty. They're all at the dome. They boarded quickly, Sue moving straight to the controls. Basic Federation model. I can fly this. As the shuttle lifted off, they saw figures running from the dome, weapons raised. Too late. Academy Station. This is Shuttle 7, Sue broadcast. Humans returning with evidence of military conspiracy. Request immediate security presence upon arrival. The shuttle broke orbit, just as another ship appeared on their sensors. Federation rescue vessel, Day confirmed, checking the identification. And look who's leading it. On the main screen appeared Administrator Rock, scales flashing what they now recognized as patterns of relief. Humans, Rock said. You continue to surprise us. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Federation Academy gleamed under ceremonial lights. Delegates from 100 worlds filled the tiered seats, their diverse forms creating a living tapestry of colors and shapes. At the center stood a raised platform where the Academy's highest officials waited in formal regalia. Jin adjusted his collar nervously. After everything they'd been through, wearing the Academy's ceremonial uniform felt strange. Stop fidgeting, Sue whispered beside him. You face toxic volcanic gas without blinking. But a ceremony makes you nervous? Fighting for survival is straightforward, Jin replied. Politics is dangerous in ways I don't understand. Day stood on Jin's other side, watching the gathering crowd. Half the Federation Council is here. Our evidence must have caused quite a stir. The 3 weeks since their escape from the moon had been a whirlwind of debriefings and closed-door hearings. Commander Lox and his military faction had been detained, but the humans had seen enough of galactic politics to know that powerful interests were still at work. They're trying to bury it, Sue had said after one particularly tense meeting with investigators. The military faction has supporters in the council. Now, as the graduation ceremony began, Jin wondered what would happen next. Would the truth come out, or would politics prevail? Grand Administrator Bell stepped forward, raising all 6 arms for silence. The murmuring crowd quieted. Distinguished delegates, honored guests, graduating students. Today marks the completion of another training cycle at our prestigious academy, but this graduation is unlike any before it. Jin noticed several military officials shifting uncomfortably in their seats. For generations, Bell continued, we have taught survival according to our understanding of the universe. Today, that understanding has been challenged and expanded by the presence of our human graduates. A ripple of conversation passed through the audience. Many eyes turned toward the 3 humans. Before we present final certifications, these humans have requested the opportunity to address this gathering. Given recent events, the Council has granted this unusual request. Jin took a deep breath and stepped forward. They had planned for this moment, practiced what needed to be said. No more secrets, no more half-truths. Respected delegates, he began, his voice carrying through the hall's perfect acoustics. My name is Jin. My colleagues are Dai and Sue. We came to this academy to learn, but we discovered something else instead. A conspiracy that threatens the foundation of the Federation. The room erupted in shocked exclamations. Administrator Bell raised arms for silence again. 3 weeks ago, Jin continued when quiet returned, we were taken to satellite TRZ-42 under false pretenses. We were not there for training but for observation. A military faction planned to study humans as potential weapons, to be deployed in environments too hostile for other species. Shouts of denial came from the military section. Jin continued over them. We have evidence. He held up a small data crystal. This contains surveillance footage from the Habitat Dome, communications between Commander Lox and his superiors, and biological data collected without our consent. Day stepped forward, activating a holographic display. This shows Commander Locke explicitly discussing weaponizing Deathworlders and deploying human assets in conflict zones. The evidence was damning. The room fell silent as recording after recording played. Jin watched the faces of the council members, shock, disgust, and on some, the dawning realization that they had been complicit in something terrible. "We understand the interest in human capabilities," Sue said, addressing the silent room. "Our homeworld has created adaptations that seem remarkable to you. But we are not weapons. We are people." "These accusations are serious," spoke a council member with flowing tentacles. "But adaptation for military application is not without precedent. Many species contribute unique biological advantages to Federation defense." "The difference," Jin replied, "is consent and transparency. We were deceived, and we were not the only ones." He nodded to the back of the hall where Tae, Han, and 5 other students stood. They walked forward, joining the humans on the platform. These students were targeted for failure or exploitation based on political considerations, Jin explained. Their academic records were manipulated, their abilities undermined, all because their homeworlds had fallen out of favor with certain factions. Administrator Rock stepped forward, scales flickering with confirmation patterns. "I have verified these claims. The Academy's evaluation systems were compromised." The council erupted in argument. Jin waited until Administrator Bell restored order. "We did not come here to destroy the Academy or embarrass the Federation," Jin said quietly. "We came to learn, and we believe that learning should go both ways." Day activated another holographic display. This one showed training footage. The humans teaching alien students, sharing survival techniques, working together to overcome challenges. "On Earth, we learned that survival isn't about being the strongest," Day explained. "It's about adaptation and cooperation. No species survives alone." "Our proposal is simple," Sue added. "Reform the Academy. Make it truly inclusive, not just for the politically favored. Judge students on their abilities, not their origins. And most importantly, share knowledge openly." Jin stepped forward again. "Earth has been classified as a Category 5 death world. You see that as terrifying. We see it as home. But neither perspective is complete without the other." The grand hall remained silent. Jin could almost feel the weight of the moment. Hundreds of different species, each with their own agenda, considering not just the scandal, but the deeper implications. A delegate rose slowly, an ancient being with skin like bark, reportedly one of the oldest council members. "I have seen many changes in our Federation," the elder said, voice creaking like old wood. "Some came through conflict, others through crisis. The best came through wisdom. These humans have shown wisdom beyond their years." Murmurs of agreement spread through the hall. "I move that we accept their proposal," the elder continued. "Reform the Academy, investigate the conspiracy fully, and recognize Earth not as a threat, but as a new perspective we desperately need." The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. As the ceremony concluded, Jin found himself surrounded by council members eager to speak with the humans directly. "What happens now?" Tae asked, joining the humans as the crowd began to disperse. Jin looked at Administrator Bell, who approached, with formal documents. "Now," Bell said, "we would like to offer you positions as instructors. The Academy needs new perspectives, particularly from those who understand both survival and ethics." Jin exchanged glances with Day and Sue. They hadn't discussed staying beyond graduation. "We accept," Jin said finally, "on one condition. The Academy must be open to qualified students from all worlds, including other Deathworlders who might have been excluded before." Bell's many limbs moved in what the humans now recognized as a gesture of agreement. Already approved by the Council, the first representatives from 3 other Category 4 worlds will arrive next cycle. 1 year later, Jin stood in the observation dome watching a new shuttle dock. The Academy had changed dramatically. Where once there had been rigid hierarchies and political favoritism, now there was genuine cooperation. Deathworld students taught resilience and adaptability, while others shared their unique perspectives on diplomacy and coexistence. Administrator Rock approached, scales displaying pleased patterns. "The new Earth delegation has arrived. They're eager to meet you." "And I'm eager to meet them," Jin replied, smiling. "I hear they bring new survival techniques even I haven't mastered." As they walked toward the docking bay, Rock gestured toward a wall display showing Federation classification updates. Earth had been reclassified, no longer listed as a threat but as critical training environment. "Your home is still considered the most challenging habitable world in known space," Rock noted. "But now, that's seen as an asset, rather than a danger." Jin nodded as the docking bay doors opened, revealing the new arrivals, humans and aliens alike, ready to learn from each other. "The universe is full of challenges," he said, "but none of us has to face them alone anymore."